I'm really, really thrilled to have Elisabeth Brooke here. And Elisabeth and I have known each other for, must be just over 7 years. Elisabeth is an amazing astrologer and herbalist, and I came across her work as a magical herbalist, which was the thing that made me go, oh, I need to talk to this woman. I need to find out more. And I met Elisabeth, or I came across her work at something that's not running anymore, is it? I think they're doing Little Things, the Radical Herbalist gathering. And she was there the weekend that I met a good number of people who are really important in my life now. So Elisabeth, but also my partner, Jack, I met him at the same weekend. And a number of really good friends and acquaintances and work colleagues and all sorts. It was a really powerful weekend for me 7 years ago. So welcome, Elisabeth. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me, Ruth. Yes, lovely to talk to you.
It's really great to have you. And we're going to be talking about your new book. This is Goddess Astrology book by Elisabeth Brooke. And it probably doesn't feel very new to you now, does it? Because you're writing another book. What's your next book about? Tell us briefly what you're writing.
I'm writing a book about, it's called Aging Gracefully. So it's about how to get older, not fall apart, basically. But from a physical, emotional, mental and spiritual perspective. So I've read all the research, the latest research, and I'm just putting it together. And it's just, basically that, to be old, but not decrepit.
Amazing. And is that from like a herbalist perspective or just general?
Herbs, but lots of nutrition, loads of nutrition in there, and sleep. And the thing that guarantees you good health in old age is having a community. So it doesn't matter if you smoke or you drink gin or you know what I mean. Have friends, have a community, and that is the best indicator of a happy old age.
Wow, that's so interesting. I think, that's going to be really wonderful to read. So we're going to whiz back to the book that's out at the moment, back to this beautiful Goddess Astrology. And I just wanted to share, as I flick through it again today, it's pretty well thumbed now. But I wanted to start with this gorgeous quote that Elisabeth has put as one of the dedications at the front, and it's a Mary Daly quote. And I just felt like when I read it before this call, I felt like this kind of ties us together really beautifully in the work that I do and the work that you do in the world. So I'm just going to read it for one moment, and then I'm going to ask Elisabeth to share with us about this gorgeous book. So, women who are pirates in a phallocratic society are involved in a complex operation. First, it is necessary to plunder. That is, righteously rip off gems of knowledge that the patriarchs have stolen from us. Second, we must smuggle back to other women our plundered treasure. I love it. And that's just what we do, isn't it? That is definitely what I do. And I'm going to use that in the future. And this is completely Elisabeth too. So please tell us about your gorgeous new book.
Mary Daly, wonderful. Mary Daly, a real visionary, absolutely. And it's true, because this book was me plundering, what did it say? Plundering the phallocratic society, going back into the Greek myths and actually retranslating them, because most of the Greek myths we know come from a Roman called Ovid, who wrote in the 1st century. And he took it from the Greeks who were in the 5th century or before. But they were translated mostly by German gentlemen in the 19th century. So, you know, there's no such thing as an objective translation. People translate through their own particular rose-coloured spectacles. So I thought, I'm going to look at these and translate them from my perspective, which is what I've done. So I've, raided. And I really like the idea of being a pirate, because I feel like I'm a bit of a pirate, really, in classics, you know, channeling away, reframing stuff. And the reason I wrote the book is I've been an astrologer for a very long time, and I just wanted to reframe what we talk about, because we talk about the signs and the planets, and they are, as I say, taken from Ovid, which is quite a patriarchal perspective. And I wanted to look at them from the perspective of women and women's history and women's power and women's role in the world. And the one I'm an Aries, sorry, and one of the ones I really liked, I looked at, because I thought, well, what's Mars? Because when you do astrology, Mars is like, you know, the warrior. Well, you know, I don't know many women who pick up swords, but, you know, basically we don't fight. Women don't fight. Well, we don't fight physically, but we do fight. And what we fight for is justice. And we fight together. We tend not to fight alone. So it's not that patriarchal fighting, it's fighting in groups for justice. And the goddess is called the Furies, are wonderful goddesses. They live in the underworld and they punish people who don't respect the goddess and the mother. And they punish them, you know, they drive them mad, really. They drive them mad. So they don't chop their heads off. They're not like patriarchal warriors, but they drive them crazy. They offer them food they can't eat, you know, they don't let them sleep. They pursue them. And I really like that idea, because I think, yeah, that's what women do. When we take revenge, we are creative about it. I think one of the ways that women take revenge is by destroying people's reputations. Remember that from school? Or still now, but you know that so it's not violence, it's not that patriarchal violence, but it's like we cut people down to size and we laugh at them as well. So it felt very important for me to reframe these narratives, and I think with Mars particularly, because you've got Aries, which is gave to the Amazons, which of course are not actual goddesses, or maybe they are, but you know, the thing about the Amazons is that they lived on their own terms, and it's written about in Herodotus, and they were women who did what they wanted. It wasn't that they were celibate, they weren't lesbians, they had relationships with men, but they were in charge, and they were not about to be wives in the patriarchal way. And there's a lovely story in there from Herodotus that they were in the north of the Black Sea and they met these young men, and the young men said, come and live with us, with our tribe. And they went, no, we can't do that. We're not sitting in wagons like your women. No, we'll go mad. Come with us. And which is very Aries, I think, because the thing about Aries is they will share, but they won't compromise their beliefs. If their beliefs are being followed by the people, they'll go with them. But if they're not, they won't compromise. And for Scorpio, which is another sign that's ruled by Mars, there's Persephone. And I love Persephone because you talk a lot about the darkness. And she's the queen of Hades, isn't she? And in the patriarchal myth, she's snatched away and forced to stay underground. I don't know if you know any Scorpio women, but I think a Scorpio woman would choose to be a queen, don't you think, underground, rather than mummy's little helper.
My Persephone reference, I've got my Persephone reference, I can't quite pull it out, but I've got a big pomegranate on my wrist here. Yeah, because they're into power too. I think the Aries is more into freedom, and Scorpio is more into power, but it's very subtle power. It's not patriarchal power, but certainly they're brave. They've got tremendous courage. Scorpios, tremendous courage. And you know, if you wanted to talk to someone about death or suffering or brutality, they're your people, because they often have experienced dark things when they're younger. And so they know that place. They know the shadows. And what Persephone in the ancient myths did in the underworld is she ministered to the suffering souls. Yeah, it's just, so I think she made the choice to get to stay and be a queen. That's a bit of a thing at the moment, is I've read that in a few different places, people writing about this idea that Persephone wasn't, maybe she was dragged there at the beginning, but she chose to stay. And she became a partner to Hades. That you know, this, some people might say a feminist rewriting of it, but maybe, like you said at the beginning, it's this rewriting, taking it back from the patriarchal writing, the patriarchal way of being.
Yeah, because in the patriarchal myth, if you read Ovid's verse, they're passive. The women are passive, and Persephone's not passive at all, I don't think. And she does it through compassion. She does her work in the underworld through compassion. And I think that's true. You know, a lot of Scorpio women, you know, they're psychotherapists, they work with abuse victims. Also, they make great spies, and they work in the police, and they work with the underbelly of society. And that takes a great deal of compassion to do that, you know.
Yeah,
Not
so
easy one.
you've already said a few things that I scribbled down in my in my diary there. Would you tell us a little bit about the structure of this book? Because I think it's like nothing I've ever seen before. It's just fantastic how you can dip into this. Tell us about what this looks like. So chapter by chapter.
Because I'm Taurus rising, since we're talking about astrology, so I'm very practical. So, you know, theory is fine, but if it doesn't work, not much use. So what I have is the theory. So I've got the mythology, and then my understanding of the mythology, but also I've looked at women's charts who embody the goddess, you know, who go to those places and have done those things, and we talk through their astrology, through the signs first of all, and then through the planets, and then at the back of the book, and then we look at transits, because when you work with transits, that really shows you how the astrology is working in your chart. Because as an astrologer, you get an idea, but until you talk to your client, you don't know how they express that idea. Because if we go back to Scorpio, you know, there's lots of things about Scorpio that are very negative, but it really depends on how the Scorpio person expresses them. You can have incredibly spiritual people are Scorpios, and incredibly devious and bad people are Scorpios, and all the way in between, you know. And you won't know that until you look at someone's chart, and then you look at the transits. So I look at transits and show how things were triggered. And one thing that's interesting, when I was choosing the charts, I look for planets on the ascendant, because that's easy to see. And another one, we haven't talked about Aphrodite, but Beyonce, for example, has got a whole bunch of planets in Libra on her ascendant. And if you look at her, she's like a goddess, isn't she? She's like a goddess. But she's a sun Virgo, and her little sun is hidden away all by itself. And what she says is that she puts on a mask. She's called Sasha Fierce. That's how she gets on stage. And when she comes off stage, she's little Virgo who likes to just potter around the house. Take the kids to the park.
That must be probably quite a really good way to live, actually, isn't it? Because it would be quite difficult to live as that personality in life in general. So it's probably a really beautiful way of doing it, isn't it?
I think so, yes. I think you have to detach from your fame, otherwise it's very hard to deal with. Yeah. When
it's big like that, definitely. So one of the things that you're doing here, Elisabeth, is you're attaching to, say, for example, so we've just said Scorpio, and you said Persephone is the goddess who you have felt and researched into as embodying the Scorpio energy. So for everybody reading this, they can go to what they know is big in their charts, or what they know is their star sign, and then read into the goddess of that. And has that been done before? Must be a pretty original?
No, I don't think it has, actually. I hadn't thought of that. No. And because when your astrology, especially when you're younger, you tend to live through your moon sign and your ascendant. Your moon sign is a place it's very easy for you to be, and your ascendant is how you present yourself to the world. And they're not, as we discussed with Beyonce, necessarily you inside, but your sun is what you're here in this lifetime to work through. So reading the myths about your sign gives you pointers as to, you know, what your purpose is. For example, if you're a Capricorn, you need power. You do. You know, it's not a bad thing. It's what you're here for. And you need to serve. All the earth signs need to serve. But Capricorn needs status. And, you know, it's not a negative thing. It's just what they're here for.
Yeah. I love it so much. We're going to keep this fairly short, this video. Otherwise, I know that Elisabeth and I could talk for hours and hours and hours. Yes. Really happy on all of these subjects. But I would love you to buy Elisabeth's book. I think it's really, really special, and it is a really important part of my library here now that is used a lot for my work. So thank you so much for all of your research and writing. It's, you know, this isn't a pop psychology book. This is proper research. This is, you know, years and years of Elisabeth's wisdom and research. So really recommend it. Thank you so much for sharing. Have you got anything that you'd like to say before we finish? Is there anything burning? You're in Greece a lot, aren't you? Would you like to?
Yes, actually, yes. I will be teaching the astrology of families in Greece in May, the last week of May, which is fun. We go to this little island called Lefkada, where a friend of mine lives, and we very small group of women of a certain age, and well, sometimes men, but mostly women. And yeah, we do some really good astrology, but also because it's a small group, which I like, we get to talk about our lives and stuff like that. So yeah. My website is elisabethbrooke.com, and all the info is in there. What else? That's all I can think to say.
And you're practicing as an astrologer. Are you still practicing as a herbalist as well?
Yes, I am. That was the bit before this one. Yeah. What I do is yes, I do. I don't have a running dispensary anymore, and I'm not sort of general practice, but I do treat people, but I treat them from a biopsychosocial perspective, which means I treat the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. So it's a holistic thing. So I get people to grow stuff. I get people to do all sorts of exercises. So it's a holistic thing. But yes, and I give them herbs. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ruth.
I can't wait to see you. I want us to come and stay. I've been telling everyone, come and stay, come and stay. I'd love to share these woods with you and this beautiful land here. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.